Ladies and gentlemen, today on the program, a tribute to Denny Gautier. If you listen to the show, you'll recognize Denny from episode 3. Singer-songwriter, artist, producer, entrepreneur, merch guy, t-shirt maker. Denny Gautier does it all, and let me tell you, he has been a real friend to this show from the very, very beginning. For example, the intro music I'm about to play. Denny created that. That's his music, and he gave it to me for free when I was starting the show, and I needed some music that was mine. The John Huff Podcast signature custom art. That illustration of me doing the look with the microphone pointed. Denny did that too. That's his illustration that he did for me for the price of a Steel Panther concert ticket, which is exceptionally fair value, I must say. And everything I know about editing this show audio-wise, which is not a lot, but just enough to get me by, Denny taught me all of that too. But you know, I have just enough to make it work. I can make the audio sound reasonably good, but at certain times, things happen that are just beyond my power to heal. And in those cases, I call up my good friend Denny, the audio expert, and I'm like, dude, this is going on. What can I do, if anything? And that was the case with this episode with Danny Miles. I've complained before about some of the audio quality I get from Skype. And that's nobody's fault. Skype was not invented to be a platform for podcasting. And it's super convenient, and it allows me to talk to people all over the world because I'm not at the level yet where people come and sit in my home and talk to me. Unlike Mark Maron, I don't have President Barack Obama and his security detail roping off my street to come here and sit down with me. Not yet, anyways. So I have to do a lot of my work over the internet, and so far Skype is the most convenient solution, certainly the most cost-effective one, and I'm looking into other options that will give me better audio, but until I have those, I work via Skype, and sometimes you get weird stuff with Skype. My interview with Danny, it sounded as though aliens were trying to infiltrate the conversation. And to be honest, aliens, if you're listening, please do infiltrate the conversation because, man, that would make for some compelling listening. Anyways, what happened this time is we got some weird digital interference, some bloops and bleeps, and weird ghosty kind of stuff. Might be great for a Tanya Thomas episode, not so great for Danny Miles, and, you know, beyond my powers to heal. So I tried everything I could with my limited audio software, and it wasn't helping. And I most certainly didn't want to have to call Danny back and try and do it again. So I sent it over to Denny and I said, dude, you're the expert. Can you do anything with this? He, of course, despite being up to his eyeballs in mixing a record for somebody and putting the finishing touches on his own new album and having 4 kids and doing all of his stuff, immediately said, yeah, let me take a look at it. And man, Denny comes through, because while the audio on this episode is not fabulous, it's 100x better than it would have been if just left to my devices. So thank you, Denny Gautier. Thank you for the music. Thank you for the art. Thank you for your lessons in audio. And thank you for fixing this one up as best as it could be fixed. What an awkward sentence that was. I suppose now's a good time to also give another shout out to my pal Howie Zowie, who provides the audio for my outro segments. Howie taught me a lot about hosting a show. He and I, at one point in time, not all that long ago, were working on a show that was to be aired weekly on CHRW Radio Western. I was resurrecting my London Groove Machine blog, which was a music blog, as we imagined a radio show that would feature local artists once a week. We did a pilot and it was actually really cool, but the station wanted more student voices involved in their programming, and so they passed on the show, which left me looking for an audio outlet, and voila, the John Huff Podcast. Anyways, when I talk over the music at the end, the music you're hearing is by Howie. And it's a demo for some of the stuff he works on. He has a CD under the name Chainmail, which is really cool. And he gave me that music, and I want to thank Howie for that. It takes a village, people. Not the village, people. It takes a village, comma, people. Punctuation is important, kids. And I've needed help to get this thing going, and those guys have stepped up to do that, so I appreciate it very much. As I appreciate everyone who has contributed in some way to this podcast becoming a reality. Whether it was inspiration or feedback or just listening and letting me know, I do appreciate it. Now on to today's episode with the great Danny Miles, drummer, photographer, best known as the man on the kit for Canadian rock band July Talk. I first encountered Danny, well, let's go back in time. Danny was born and raised in London, Ontario, Canada, which is where I live. So, he has London connections, and I knew about him and July Talk before I ever actually encountered the band or met him. My first experience of him and the band directly was at the Lackey Festival in 2014, which was held at a motor raceway near Hagersville, Ontario. And it was a cool festival, and my band Hiroshima Hearts got to play it. We played on stage 2 at about, I think it was noon on the Saturday. So people had been camping there and doing things that make them somewhat unamenable to rock bands blasting their heads open at 12 o'clock. But we did that. We woke up Lackey Boy. And after we were done, over on the main stage, there was a series of great bands, including the Balconies, who I met and heard for the first time that day and became an instant lifelong fan. Jackie Neville, well, she and I have traded several emails about getting her on this show. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm determined that it will. And all that's an aside, because on the same day that I saw the Balconies and on the same stage, I saw July Talk. And having heard about them, it was cool to check them out. And the really neat thing about playing a festival is that generally speaking, you get full backstage access. Which means that when July Talk plays, I can go stand side stage and watch the show or stand backstage or whatever. So I stood side stage and I watched July Talk play from 10 feet away. And that was an education, my friends. Hiroshima Hearts was in the very, very early days at that point. I think we'd been playing out for about a year. And Jen Marino had just joined the band. It was her second show with us. So Hiroshima Hearts, as what we eventually became, was just in its formative stages at that point. We were nailing down our sound. We were getting Jen integrated with the music that we had and writing new stuff. And when you're an indie band, especially a new one, it's really important to take a look at people playing at the next level. Because you learn a lot from those people. And, you know, bands like July Talk and the Balconies were on the main stage. Why were they on the main stage? Partly its profile, mostly its profile, but how do you get that profile? Because July Talk started somewhere, right? In a club somewhere, most likely in Toronto. How do you get to main stage level at a festival like that? And what are the differences between bands on the big stage and bands on the smaller stages? And it's not just having a record deal. That's part of it, but it's what is it about those bands that they present as being at a higher level? And for me, it was really great to watch July Talk play. At that point in time, they were signed and they had a record and they were on their way up. They were ascending at that point. But they were big enough to be main stage at a festival like that. And what I noticed right away was how July Talk looked. Now, this actually was in July. It was, I think, maybe even Canada Day weekend. It was hot. It was muggy. It was humid. And if you looked at a lot of the side stage bands, you saw folks in shorts and you saw whatever. Like, you saw people that were dressed for the weather, not necessarily dressed for the show. And that's a thing for me. July Talk goes up and they're in full-on rock star clothing. Hot. And they're working their butts off up there. And it's these little things. It's these little... It's in the presentation. The presentation really counts. And what separates you as a local indie band from the other local indie bands, in a lot of cases, is presentation. It's stage clothes. It's transitions in your songs. It's the way you conduct yourself on stage. And for me at that time, I got an education in that stuff from Danny, from the rest of July Talk, who are already playing and presenting themselves at that higher level. It was a great education, and it was really, really cool to watch them play. So you fast forward a few years, and Danny and I have the London connection. We also have the YC Drum Company connection. We both play YC drums. Danny is one of the high-profile artists on the YC Drum Company roster. And YC is a small, custom, independent company, but a lot of people play their drums, particularly in Canada, so we have this weird kind of little YC family, which is cool. So Danny and I have that connection, and he's a guy I watch. I watch everybody who's playing at the levels I want to reach. And he has also developed this really cool sideline as a bird photographer. So he runs the Drummers Who Love Birds community. And if you look at his social media, there are all these really great photographs of just birds and photos he's taken all over the world. And it's really cool. And we talked in this episode about how you need something in some cases as a sideline, something that takes you out of the music world a little bit. And for him, it's photography. And it was cool to talk to him about that and its connection to his side project, Tongue Helmet, which sounds dirty but isn't. And Danny's a neat guy. And it was really great to talk to him about music and about touring and about photography, about where he comes from as a player, about what he aspires to as a player, because, man, pay attention to this. Because he talks about not being satisfied, right? Now, July Talk is doing great stuff. It's at a very, very high level. But he, as a player, feels a responsibility and still feels an ambition to get better, to improve, to learn, to do things better. And I feel that same ambition, and I think you need it. You need to stay hungry, As a player, you need to keep practicing. You need to keep working. You can never rest on your laurels. And I have few laurels to rest on anyways, but he has more of them, and yet he continues to aspire. So that's a lesson for everybody out there who's still working, still trying. Keep going, You're never finished. Particularly as a musician, you can never know it all. And the advice is to keep going, keep working. Be grateful for what you have and develop your interests, develop your talents. Chase things and enjoy, man. Enjoy, my friends. Enjoy what you do. Love what you do. And take it as far as you can. It's the lesson of Denny Gauthier. It's the lesson of Howie Zowie. It's the lesson of Danny Miles. And I'm working very hard to make it the lesson of John Huff and the John Huff Podcast. So that's a long ramble, and I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope you enjoy this episode. Now sit back, kids, relax, have a mint julep, and enjoy the stories of Danny Miles, of July Talk, and Tongue Helmet, and Drummers Who Love Birds. And hey, Danny, roll intro! You're listening to the John Huff Podcast. Oh, yay. How's Toronto today?
It's beautiful out today.
I can see that. It looks
Gorgeous.
like it.
Yeah. How's London doing?
London, Ontario is beautiful too.
Yeah, it's probably the same.
It's about the same.
Similar weather.
It's about the same. You grew up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whereabouts?
Born there. I was I moved a lot as a kid, but I was mostly like Oak Ridge area.
Where are you?
Yeah.
I live not far from there, actually.
Yeah, I like Oxford Street, and I went to Clare Brenton.
Did you?
Yeah.
That goes back a ways.
Yeah.
Clare Brenton. All right. Man, the world is really interested in hearing about London.
Of course they are.
The world gets a lot of London from this show. Like it's because I tend to interview a lot of London people or people who have London connections. And so I'm putting this city on the map, man, if you aren't.
It's a great city.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah. So for those who are just tuning in, this is Danny Miles of July Talk and Tongue Helmet.
Yeah.
And Drummers Who Love Birds.
That's me.
I figured out what Tongue Helmet means.
Well, some people think it's something that it's not.
What do some people think it is?
I mean, and we knew that this could be a problem, but some people think it's got like a sexual connotation, but it's bird thing. It's a bird thing.
Yeah.
It's way dorkier than that.
Yeah, it's cool though in its own way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about all this stuff, but let's go back in time. You're primarily known as a drummer.
Yep.
Where did drumming start for you?
My dad was a drummer in London. Dan Miles,
Okay.
Very creative with the names in my family, apparently.
Mine too. My dad is John Huff.
Yeah. But my dad was a drummer for a band called Landslide. And that had like Pete DeCoker, who was in 63 Monroe, was the bass player.
Great. And
Mark Anderson and Mark Jeftovich. But they're all like great guys. They've all come and seen me play. Actually, the last Tongue Helmet show, Peter came to our show, which was great to see him.
Are you one of those guys who like was gigging with your dad's band at 7 years old?
Yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah,
you're one of those.
I would they'd have me sit in the hallway because it was too loud. And then at the end of practice, I would get to go in and jam.
That's amazing. That's so good. So you kind of, drums are always there.
They're always there, but they were always at my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
So I'd have to like travel. I mean, it was just walking home from school or whatever. I'd go to my grandparents' house, play drums, annoy them because my mom wasn't having it. She's great now. Now she loves drums, but she wasn't having it.
Because she had it. Because your dad was playing, and now you're playing. Like, she can't get away from it. No. And for those who don't know, drums are bloody loud.
That's the problem. Although now I have like an electronic kit, and it's not the same. Anyone who thinks that electronic kits are something that is like playing a real drum kit, it's not. But it is a good way to practice. Like if you can't play a real drum kit, at least you can practice. But it just doesn't feel the same. It's easier. Electronic kit's much easier than a real drum kit.
Sticks tend to bounce very nicely on electronic kits.
Yeah, I'm like Neil Peart on electronic drum kit. And like Lars Ulrich on a normal drum kit.
Oh no, we're not going to disparage Lars, are we?
No, I love Lars. He's great.
That's a running gag with Jordan Gauthier of YC Drum Company, the Lars Ulrich thing.
Yeah, he loves Lars. But it's a joke.
Does he actually love Lars?
I think it's like he loves... Yeah, I don't know. He likes bad things. He likes Tim Hortons. He likes Lars. He likes me. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, snap. Snap.
Anyways, Jordan's best. I know he's been on your show, too. Right?
Jordan has been on my show. Yeah. And we talked about you on that episode.
Amazing. And now we're talking about him.
It's all circular, man. It all turns in on itself.
And you have a YC kit.
I do have a YC kit. And I plug YC as hard as I can everywhere I go.
Yeah.
But I'm the one drummer in Canada who's not on Jordan's artist roster.
We got to change that.
We got to change that, man.
I'll message him right after this.
Please do that. Let's hook me up. And it's not even like he has to give me anything. I've already got the kit.
Does he have a website or something? I haven't even looked.
YC Drums or YCDrumCompany.com.
Check it out.
Just harass him. Let's get me on board. Funny thing, when I interviewed Jordan, I went up to the YC shop in Waterloo.
Yeah.
And he was working on your new tour kit at that moment.
That's so cool.
With the oyster shell wrap and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful
kit. I was actually
kit.
the first person who had a wrap.
Yeah, he does like natural finishes mostly, right?
Yeah. And so I was the first one to have it's like a vintage pearl wrap. That was
beautiful.
my first kit.
It's very Ringo.
Yeah. Well, the new one's very Ringo. My first one's like this vintage pearl. So this is my third kit that he's made me.
Oh,
He takes them back. He takes them back. It's like a trade out.
Is that what happens to them? He just takes them and then
they become backline. Like Lowell from Winter Sleep was using my first kit for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Been around.
I've wondered what becomes of those kits because you like for real big touring guys get a new kit on every album cycle.
Yeah. Tim and I are spoiled. Tim from Arkells.
Yeah.
He's the most spoiled. I'm probably second most spoiled.
That's not bad.
I'm aware. I don't know if Tim's aware of how spoiled.
No, I don't think so. I don't know Tim, so I can't comment directly, but
he's a great guy.
I've heard that, yeah. And Jordan told me really fun stories about teching for those guys and teching for you guys.
Well, I don't know how much he's truthful, but he always says he loves teching for us. He's always so thankful. So that's nice.
That's one of the things.
He actually feels that way.
No, he actually is. Like, that's one of the things that I really love about that dude is that he's so grateful for everything. And he's too young to be that grateful. You know what I mean? Like he's too mature for his own good.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird.
Well, he also looks 10 years older than he is. But
that's because that's
another podcast.
He texts for you.
That's true.
And for Tim, you know? That'll do it to people, man.
Years on.
Yeah. So you were kicking around London playing drums. When did you start playing out in bands and stuff?
I actually, in high school, there was some bands I can't even remember that were not anything. Like, maybe we played some Rage Against the Machine or something.
Nice.
But my first real band was actually this band Toolshed, which was a hip-hop group.
Really?
Which is actually like Tim from Tongue Helmet. It was like our first group. So I was 16, 17. He's a couple years older. And so I was friends with his brother. I played hockey with his brother. And I would just bug Tim to like hear Toolshed. And then I finally like started playing with Toolshed.
Oh, cool. Cool. Was drums the dream for you, or did that just kind of happen?
I think from a young age, like I was always like my mom's side of the family is very athletic. Like my grandpa played in the CFL. My uncle was like a pro hockey player. And I was like kind of a natural, not to be braggy or something, but I was like a natural athlete. So I used to win like the Olympiad all the time, like London, 400 meters and high jump. So I think my family really wanted me to be like a athlete.
So they had space hockey, reserved.
But I always was like, I had pictures of, you know, Nirvana and Red Hot Chili Peppers and all these bands up on my bedroom wall. I just always wanted to play music. And I was playing drums from a young age too. So.
Yeah. I feel like you had the right frame to be a hockey player.
Yeah. I mean, I was in like the OHL draft. I was okay. Like I was a okay hockey player, but there was no way I was ever going to be an NHL hockey player.
You were not going to go all the way there. Okay.
I wasn't going all the way.
I understand.
Did you play sports?
I did. I played hockey and I was a soccer player. I remain a fervent soccer fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have the temperament. I didn't have the killer instinct. I was not an aggressive sort of person.
Surprised me coming from London. Isn't that just like ingrained in you a little bit?
I'm not from London. That's the thing.
Not from London. London's kind of got like an aggression.
Does it? I don't know. Maybe.
I hope people wouldn't take offense to that in London, but I just feel like there's a bit of like a killer instinct from people.
Maybe it's just you, man.
Maybe it's just me.
Because I didn't have it. I was a reasonably good athlete, And my dad is a great athlete. Like he played hockey at like junior C, and like he was a goalie with no mask. Like as a teenager, that used to happen as a teenager.
That's crazy.
And he was like a great baseball player, and he was scouted by like the Detroit Tigers and stuff like that. So I have athletic bloodlines.
Yeah.
Somehow I didn't get the temperament.
Right.
Right.
You got the drummer temperament.
What is what it is?
I feel like drummers are like, we're compared to like goalies or something. I mean, you're definitely like not the person in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Or something. So I think there's this kind of like, you eventually, I don't know how to explain it. I think we're considered a bit like odd or something. It's like a little bit of a weird personality thing. But I think it's always because drummers are always like kind of in the back and like quiet and not fully up front, unless you're Keith Moon, who's just like fighting and clawing to be, like a lead guitarist type. But
well, that's the thing, is that the public perception of drummers is Animal from the Muppets and Keith Moon,
who are the same. Like basically, Animal from the Muppets is based on Keith Moon.
Yeah, it's same character. So this is the perception that drummers are these insane people. But in fact, in my experience, that's not the case. Drummers tend to be people who are accustomed to not being in the spotlight, not even being in the photographs.
Exactly.
You're always positioned right behind the singer.
Well, it's always like, I think back in the day, I think it's changing slightly because you're getting more, drummers are just more known and there's more exposure. But it was always thought that drummers were like the dummies who like hung out with real musicians or whatever. Right. And like in reality, drums are so important in a band, and usually drummers are actually like quite smart, and it's kind of like a math type of thing, right? It's like, I mean, there's so many different things that you need to have to be a drummer. As far as like, you need to count, you need to have coordination, you need to have stamina, you need to have dynamics, you need to be able to play hard and play light and accentuate all these things in a song. Like there's so much depth to drums, and it's a never-ending learning.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing is that the further you go with drumming, and the better you get, the more you have to know when to not use any of that stuff that you learned.
That's true,
right?
That's the other thing, is overplaying is a big thing, right? Yeah. Playing to a song is actually like quite challenging.
Oh yeah.
When you just are there to like hit a hi-hat to accentuate every once in a while, you need to be able to know like that's what your job is in that time.
Right.
Or just hit a simple or kick. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Do you follow any of these crazy YouTube guys who just post up videos of them chopping out like mad all the time? Do you see this stuff?
Yeah, of course. And it's all over Instagram and stuff, but it's pretty crazy. I just went and saw Beck.
Yeah.
Beck, KG and Spoon, who are like three of my favorite bands of all time. Especially like Spoon and Beck, I've been like grew up on that stuff. I've been listening to Spoon since the early 2000s. But Beck has Chris Coleman playing. I had to like look up. Actually, he mentioned, but I looked him up the other day, and I have seen YouTube. But he's one of those like gospel chop guys.
Yeah.
And just like these guys, it looks like zero effort. There's no effort put into this like incredible, crazy drumming. It's wild.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Like they started playing when they were like 2 years old, and you're like, okay, you guys are insane.
Yeah.
I will never play like that. But
Me neither.
I think the other thing is like there's like Charlie Watts doesn't play like that, or Ringo doesn't play like that. You know, what I mean? It's like even Dave Grohl doesn't play like that. Yeah. There's like definitely like a style thing.
Oh yeah.
So those guys have a certain style that it influences the music. Like I thought Beck was amazing that night, but it's also like it doesn't quite sound like the Beck I know. It doesn't sound like the record.
Really?
A little more.
Was he busier?
Definitely
Coleman?
A lot busier.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's for me, as a reasonably experienced and well-adjusted player, I still feel sometimes this inadequacy, because I'll see dudes like that and they'll play something on Instagram, some crazy fill, and you're like, what just happened? And I feel this weird thing like I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. Like I have to remind myself all the time that on 90% of the gigs I play, if I did that, I'd get fired.
Yeah. I know. I mean, but that I think it's like with every musician I know on every level that all these musicians I've met, it's just like you never feel comfortable. You never feel like you've achieved. Like the way you feel is how I feel every day. Just being like, I got to work harder. I got to like figure this out.
Yeah.
You're never satisfied. And I think that's what motivates musicians forever. Like, I think that's just kind of the thing. Because people be like, how can you play the same song for the past 10 years over and over? And it's like, well, every night I play it, I try to play it better than the last time I played it, or as good. You know what I mean? It's like you're never like, that was it, I'm done with it. It's just like a constantly evolving thing. And as you get better as a musician, like I found myself this last 2 gigs at Kita Bala, we were playing a lot of old songs that we haven't played in a long time. And I listened to them a few times, but and then I was like, I know them, I got it. But we only rehearsed them a couple times and then we're playing them live. But I found myself, I thought that was a great thing because I was playing them slightly different.
Cool. Than
I did on the record or something. And I was like, there was like new parts where I was like playing to this song. I was like, oh, I'm hearing this differently than I did before.
That's cool.
And some songs I was underplaying what I did on the record, or some I was throwing in new fills that like actually there's space for the fills that I didn't realize were there.
I've had a similar experience actually at this moment. I did a record with a guy last year, and we're now just about to do the release show on Friday, actually.
Cool.
So I'm brushing up on these songs I haven't heard in a year.
Where's the show?
It's at a little place in London called the Bicycle Cafe.
Oh, cool.
Which is a bicycle shop that gets converted to a venue. It's a really great little kind of folk venue, and this is a folk record.
Right.
But same deal, like I'm going over these songs again, like, A, I don't remember playing that, and B, oh, I can do this so much better now. Like even after just a year, if you keep evolving, you begin to recognize that you are evolving, which is kind of a cool feeling.
Fully.
Yeah, man. So how did July Talk happen? What was the sequence there?
Well, there's piecing it all together is a funny thing for me. Like for me, I was in a band called The Job, which was a London band called Howl. And then we moved to Toronto and changed our name to The Job, which I like the name Howl better. But it was a cool band. It was like Niles Mischik, Jay Holinetti, and Mark Johnson, all London people. And so that band was going on. And this guy Ryder came and saw us, and he was like, "Can you play drums for me? Like, I would love you to play drums." And then I was like, "I'm in The Job," but The Job quickly broke up. So then I went to Europe with this band, the Mohawk Lodge.
Oh wow!
And that's where Eamon McGrath. And I was playing with both bands. I was doing like double duty thing in Europe. And Peter, our singer of July Talk, was hired to play keys for that band, and obviously Eamon was hired. And so what happened was we did that tour, and we got stranded at Heathrow Airport for it was like winter time, it was around Christmas. We got stranded there for 3-4 days. I'm kind of like losing our minds. It was after a month of touring, like DIY, like barely eating, barely showering.
Yeah, been there.
But Peter's just like, I have songs, like let's start a band. And he had just met Leia like before that, and I think he was like doing some demoing with Leia.
Okay.
Just the two of them. And he had already gone to school with Josh for film. He's our bass player.
Yeah.
So when we got back, we started jamming Peter's songs, which became July Talk.
What do you do for 4 days stranded at Heathrow?
I was trying to get on a flight. I was the first one out, so I was just like going to every line, like lining up and trying to get on flights that happened to me.
Oh, really?
And I finally did. I like flew to Halifax, which was weird.
Get you a little closer.
Yeah. People are just like, get out of England. Let's like go to Canada. You need to get there. But yeah. And Eamon was the last one. I think he got like put out in like a tent. But we like almost didn't get back for Christmas. I don't even know if Eamon got back for Christmas. It was around Christmas, but it was pretty. And honestly, as a Canadian, it was so crazy because it was just like a sprinkle of snow.
Right. There's nothing.
There was nothing. They just didn't have they didn't have it. Like, not even, I was like, I'll go like with a broom and sweep it off the runway. It was crazy.
Right.
Flights were canceled. It was crazy.
I have this weird pride and respect for Canadians in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Because we'll get nailed. You know what it's like in London. We get it. And we'll get it. And it'll be like 1.5 feet or 2 feet. And the roads will be blocked. And people will just get on with it.
Yeah.
Shovel it out. Go kind of off onto the roads and maybe make it to work or maybe not. And it's no big deal. And I love that so much about Canadians. But I hate the winter so freaking much.
I hate the winter too.
It's
Josh,
awful.
our bass player, wants to move to Arizona. I'm not against it. But I remember like one winter in London, I think it was the ice. Well, there was the ice storm thing where everything was frozen. But then there was like, I just remember like snow being higher than all the cars. Like cars, if they were parked on the side, were covered in snow. It's just like completely insane.
I grew up in Owen Sound.
Okay.
And same deal. Snow belt, like just nuts, just stupid. And then you see like photos of New Brunswick or someplace where literally the snow is as high as your house. And you're like, what are we doing? But
why do we live here?
Right? I say that every winter, and now I'm coming into like winter number 46 for crying out loud, and I'm still asking that stupid question. The good thing is I'm probably disappearing to Texas for a month to play shows in February, so that's a smart thing.
That's very good. I love those winters. When July Talk's on tour and we just skip the whole winter. It's like nice out when we leave, kind of like September, October, and then we get back in like March. We're like, that is the best.
Where's your favorite place to go? You've gone to Australia and stuff. I've never done that.
We did Australia. Like, honestly, I've been to Australia once, and it was for touring, and we played like 8 shows in 4 days. It was just like, I didn't see Australia.
You didn't see anything.
I saw some clubs. And because you have to fly, it's like Canada. It's very big and spread out, so we just flew everywhere. Lost my first YC snare there.
No way.
Still there. And we had our manager at the time, he went back and he like messaged me. He's like, I got your snare. It was like 2 years after we left. He's like, I got your snare. And then he came back and I was like, where's my snare? He's like, I forgot it. So now I don't even know where it is. Now it's like in a new place in Australia, but we've just given that snare's gone.
Oh, what a drag.
It was like wood hoops. I kind of had it. I had Jordan build it based on Joey Castillo's snare from Queens of the Stone Age.
Beautiful.
Around like Lullabies to Paralyze.
Right.
Times.
I saw Queens of the Stone Age last year. It stood right up front, second person deep. And John Theodore was playing drums for them. And that was an education.
He's great.
That's one of those I'm going home and burning my sticks moments. Like, forget it. Because they played No One Knows, right?
Yeah.
You know that song with the crazy quad fills that Dave Grohl did? And so they did that like second or third in the set, like right up front. And then he did like a 10-minute drum solo in the middle of that song. And it was just
easy for him.
I know, right? And I get these educations once in a while. It's a fine line between I'm learning something and I'm quitting. I had a similar experience with Jason McGurr from Death Cab for Cutie, who's one of my favorite drummers in the world. And I got to watch him too. Second row, he was like 15 feet away. And I left that show a better drummer. And I don't even know how. It's just by osmosis, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You just watch them. It's like, in awe. People probably watch you and do the same thing.
I don't know if they do or not. I play behind some spectacular front people, so people rarely... I've had this happen a lot of times where I play and the set's over and I go to the merch table and people are like, hey, are you at the band? I'm like, dude, I was just... That happens to me all the time. But you're like big and tall and... You're big and tall and spectacular, though, so people can pick you out.
I'm more and more, it's like I think people are noticing more of the members of the band, but back originally it was just like I'd be standing at the merch table and people would come up and be like, can we get a picture? And you'd be like, yeah. And then they'd be like, oh, but like, can you take a picture of me and Peter and Leia? And so you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
I have the same experience. I tour with a local artist called Sarah Smith. You probably know Sarah's name. Yeah. I'm her touring guy, so I go on the road with her a lot. And she has that kind of magnetism. Yeah. And it's like there is nobody else. Yeah. It's like all eyes on her. And that's it.
She seems like a beautiful, intelligent, charismatic person.
She's all of those things.
Where you guys have a show coming out, right? Or did you just play? There's some big festival you're playing, right?
Sarah's playing Riverfest.
Oh yeah, Alora. That's what.
Yeah, I'm not playing that show with her. I'm her sub guy.
Okay.
So anyways, but I do tend to tour with her because her regular guy doesn't go out for extended periods. But Alora Riverfest is down and back, so I don't get that one. Just a bit of a drag, but oh well.
Great festival. We played it last year.
Yeah.
It was so fun. Flaming Lips played, so we headlined the Friday.
Yeah.
Flaming Lips headlined Saturday. And,
beautiful.
And my wife and I stayed. It was just like, what a band. If you get to see Flaming Lips, it's just like an experience I've seen them a few times, but this time it's just like, wow. I can't believe that they brought that much stuff to Alora. It was wild.
Yeah, amazing.
Every song has a new prop. Like, it's just mind-blowing.
I dig bands that put that kind of effort into the show.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big Ghost fan. Are you a Ghost fan?
I do like them. Ian is the big Ghost fan in our, guitar player Ian. He loves Ghost. They went and saw them. Ian and Leia went and saw them when we were in, Denver or something.
Oh, really? I saw them at the Sony Center last December.
Cool.
And the show is amazing. Like, visually speaking, spectacular.
Yeah.
And I love that because I grew up I'm a little older than you. I grew up on the hair metal world, right? Late 80s.
Right.
Where the show was everything. Like, it was just colors and lights and spectacular. And I missed that, So Ghost is kind of like a throwback to that, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I had Go ahead.
No, I would love to see them. And I've listened to them a bit through Ian. They're funny for me because they're very clean.
In a way,
I like a little dirt in my music. I like a little rawness. They're very clean.
Cleaner than you would expect from a quote unquote satanic band.
Exactly. Like, if you just listened to them, you didn't know what they looked like. You'd be like, oh, they are, dorky, like Steely Dan or something.
I was a little disappointed because I got into Ghost a few years ago when they still had the really dark imagery. Right. And I thought, this band's going to be so heavy. This is going to be awesome. Yeah. But they're not heavy at all. That's the funny part.
Some of that metal stuff is wild. I went and saw in London back when I lived in London in 2003 or 2004, I saw Megadeth.
Yeah.
And they were probably one of the quieter, cleaner sounding shows I've ever seen. It was
interesting.
It was just super clean. Because metal is kind of got a jazzy type background, right? It does get it's more about the musicality than the craziness.
It's technical,
sometimes. Very technical.
I love Megadeth. I had a similar drummer up close thing with you, actually.
Really?
And it was 2014, 15, the Lackey Festival. Do you remember the Lackey Festival, Hagersville?
Where Trailer Park Boys?
Yes, that's the one. That's
where
right.
We met Trailer Park Boys for the first time.
I kind of saw them up close backstage. I was there with Hiroshima Hearts. My band played on stage 2. And then later that day, you guys were up on the main stage.
Right.
And I got up to watch side stage. That's the great thing about backstage access, right?
Yeah.
So I literally stood 15 feet away from you and watched you play that game. We didn't know each other then.
Yeah.
But it's the same deal as an education, man. And watching you and the band play was awesome. It was great.
See, that's very nice of you to say. I am like you, where I'm this after us rival Sons played, and I watched that guy, and they're like, oh shit. So, yeah, as I said, I don't know many, unless you're probably an egomaniac. I don't know which musicians aren't just I need to be better.
Right.
You're never satisfied, right? It's just I need to always be getting better.
My default assumption is that everybody's better than me. Everybody.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I feel. but that's motivation, right? For both of us. It's like
Yeah.
we need to always be like, I'm not satisfied.
Right.
And I also don't like what you just said. It's like I don't take, I guess in certain ways you need to learn how to take compliments in a nice way, but it's like, yeah, he's just saying that. He doesn't really feel that way. It's not true. You know what I mean?
No, because the thing about you is that you're playing at a very high level. Like your band is at a high level. And for me, it's watching how a drummer operates at that level, right? It's not always what you play, it's what you don't play a lot of the times. And just watching the whole band do its show at that level, the way you guys look, right?
Yeah.
The way you perform together, that's an education for everybody who's underneath you, right?
Yeah.
More people need to pay attention to that, you know? And
well, it's funny, like guys from my old band, like the job I would just like play as many fills as I could and just like go nuts. It was crazy. I didn't care about the song. It was more of like a punky, like Buzzcocks type of band. It was all really fast. And like some of those guys would just be like, just seems like when you're playing with July Talk, they like have you on like a leash, like they're holding you back kind of deal. And it's like, I don't know. It's just that that's what the song needs. It's not. And some of that tension adds to the energy, this like unchained energy, because like the whole band live, like Peter and Leia are crazy front people. And so you're just like there to like let more and more now, like it's probably changed a lot. I don't know if you see it, but it's like things are becoming more cohesive. But originally, probably when you saw us, it was a lot like the three, like Josh, Ian, and I needed to like hold it down because those two were like beating the shit out of each other up front. You're like, I don't know what Peter's playing on guitar, but we're holding it down, and it's super exciting and it's crazy. But
it's cool to watch how a band's live show evolves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And because I'm so much in the indie world, I've been in a bunch of bands.
Yeah.
And so you have to begin to pay attention to that, because in your local indie scene, one of the things that separates you from everybody else is how pro that live show is, you know?
Yeah.
As pro as you can make it with what you've got.
Yeah.
You know? So I paid special attention to that, and I learned a lot from you guys. Just simply the way you appeared on stage was pro, you know? And
Thank
so
you.
that was an important day. Yeah. So then July Talk has blown up since then.
Yeah, I feel like it's like, I don't know. Again, it's like we appreciate what we have more. It's like so incredible, but we're also not satisfied. And we're just like, and we also know that whatever amount of success that you have, like in a moment, can all just go away really quickly. Yeah. So it's like you just need to be constantly, like right now, I feel like we're not doing a lot, or we are behind the scenes doing a ton. We're just like rearing up, getting ready for stuff to kind of like drop. We're doing some internal changes in our like team behind us. Okay. But yeah, we have like a full record. It's very, I always think that our records are like, it's very different. But this one really is like it's changed the way I'm playing.
Really?
We're all playing slightly. Stuff is a lot more musical and not as just like aggression. There's a lot more dynamics in these songs, and it's just like, yeah, it's interesting. So it's been a challenge in the way it's been like really pushing all of us as musicians to, it's not even necessarily that it's like super techy. Like don't expect us to be super techy. It's just like the dynamics of the songs are really drastic.
That's great. How long have you been working this stuff up? I mean, how does it go? Do you do like an album cycle and then disappear, or are you kind of always writing as you go?
I mean, for us, it's just been different because the first record was like 5 years long we put it out independently with 11 songs, and then Universal picked it up and they wanted 3 more songs. So we did 3 more songs and they put it out, which was like, so the white cover was the first one, and then the black cover was the second record, the second version of that record. And then we got picked up by Island Records in the US and also Europe, like Universal in Europe. They wanted 4 more songs, or it was 3, another 3. I think it was 4. But it was just like by the end we had done 17 songs, 17, 18 songs for that record.
Yeah.
It's just like crazy. Different covers, like for the records. It's just like, if you saw it, you're like, is that 3 different records that came out? But it's just the same thing. And then we finally did our second record. And like when we dropped the second record, when we were recording it, we were doing some touring with Alabama Shakes. So we were like leaving the studio and we did like the ACC and stuff. And then we immediately went on a 4-month tour, which is like the craziest amount of work we've ever done. By the end of that tour, I like couldn't lift a drumstick. I was so exhausted.
Really?
And not even from partying. It was just like every day we were playing. We'd do like radio shows in the morning and then like play at night. Just like no sleep. We were in like a van.
Yeah.
We should have been in a bus or something. Like now we do the whole bougie bus stuff. But like at the time, we're like, we're still punk. We're still DIY. We're just like living out of a van.
Those are intense experiences. I've done a fair amount of van touring, and it's really funny because I go to Europe with Sarah. I have a couple times. We're about to go again, and people are always like, "Oh, that's great. You must see so much, and you must, it's like there's almost no tourism happening here. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like those van tours are rough. Like a bus, at least you have a cot, a bunk, you can sleep. The van, you're just like, no."
Well, the van, the difference too is like the van, so you got to drive for 8 hours that day and get sound check. So you're like up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You went to bed at 3. You have a hotel for a bit. You get up, you drive all day. You do get to see the countryside and stuff like that. But you're right. Like you don't see the tourist stuff. Like I was in Paris 6 times before I saw the Eiffel Tower. Like it's just like, and when I saw it, it was like our driver was like, "Okay, get out quick, take a picture, get back in. We gotta go to press." And it's just like when you're in a bus, the driver, you go to bed the bus leaves at 2 or 3 a.m. You can go to bed whenever you want, or you can stay up all night. Doesn't matter. Just be on the bus at 3, and then you drive all night.
Yeah.
You wake up at 10 a.m. in the city, nothing to do, and you can go wherever you want. That's the thing I love about the bus.
Yeah.
You sleep through the drive, and you just see the city.
That's a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
The van is a much different situation.
Yeah. It's the realer thing, though.
Yeah.
Band tours. I feel like when some of these like bands that just like, they're boy bandy, they just like get a bus immediately. It's like you didn't actually tour. You didn't like put the time in.
Yeah, I know. It's like there's this weird pride that comes from it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I love it. I feel really lucky to be able to do that at all.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because
what's your favorite place you've toured?
I really like playing in Europe. Because it's still, like, I've done 2 tours there.
Yeah.
And it's still really novel to me. Like, I still land there and I go, what? Yeah. How am I here? Why am I here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And, Sarah, we play clubs, and we play all these little towns that you've never heard of. And there are these ancient, beautiful towns in Germany, and like I played an outdoor festival last year. We were headlined one night in this little town called Apolda, Germany.
Cool.
It was right in the town square. They set up a stage, right? Really pretty. It's like the buildings that I'm looking at from the drum set. I don't know. Are they 1,000 years old? Something like that? Like, and I just and I'm a history person too, so that really affects me. So I just kind of look around these places in amazement.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be doing that in a Sprinter van.
Yeah.
Terrific.
I agree.
I feel totally
have,
lucky.
The best sandwiches you've ever had at the gas stations there.
Yes, and coffee.
The coffee's amazing.
Like and really good coffee.
The venues in Europe treat you so great.
Yes.
No matter if you're a new small band or old big band, it's like they'll do catering for you. Amazing food. It's just like they treat you so great.
Yeah.
Very different than here or the US or England. England's like us. These treat bands like shit.
I haven't done England yet. Sarah has a following in Germany and the Netherlands, and so we spend most of our time there.
Awesome.
And I mean, we're not at July Talk level, you know, but even us, they're thrilled that we're there.
Well, I think that weirdly, Germany and the Netherlands are like Billy Talent is as big as like Metallica.
Yeah.
In Germany.
Amazing.
And that's not even exaggeration. Like it will be like Metallica headlines one night and Billy Talent headlines the next night.
That's
it's
so
like
cool.
That crazy. Danko Jones, I also know, is like incredibly massive in Germany.
I think a lot of Canadian bands, like local indie bands.
Canadian bands. I don't know what it is. We do great in Germany. It's crazy.
Even indie bands, like you could develop a following there for some reason. Like people go to shows. Like people are going to go to a July Talk show because you're July Talk and you're on tour. But people will go to a Sarah show too, or they'll just show up at the club, not knowing who's playing.
Promote them better there.
Yeah.
Like even when you're doing a show in Canada, like say my other band Tongue Helmet, and you're like, okay, we're playing. It's like, did you guys put out a poster? Did you do anything to promote? They're like, whoa, you know, it wasn't the turnout we expected. It's like, did you let anyone know that the show was happening? Whereas in Germany, it's like they're just like constantly, there's all these different avenues that they're like putting posters out all the time on the streets. They have social media following because they promoted that. And it's just like they'll put the video out. Even if you don't have a video, they'll find a video of you playing live and like put that out on their thing to show people that you're coming. And like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the promotion's a huge part there.
Big time. I can remember playing one little tiny town in Austria, right? And we showed up and it was like rock stars showed up. Like the press was there. They wanted interviews. They wanted photos. Like they'd turned this into a thing, you know? It's like, when does that ever happen in North America? Man, oh man.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a cool feeling. Very cool feeling.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Tongue Helmet. How did that happen? This is your side project.
Yeah, well, as I said, that was like, I've been working with Tim for a very long time, and there's many, over the decade or whatever, 2 decades almost, there's many hip-hop songs with my drums. Like, we'd just like do them any way we could. Usually not like a real studio, but like I'd go to like he has a studio, but it's like his bedroom, and like play some drums and we'd sample it. This project happened because I was just like with him one day hanging out, and I was just like, we need to do something weird. Like we need to get you a little bit outside of your box, and I really want to do something a bit outside of my box.
Yeah.
And let's do something like, the influences originally were very like Beck and Gorillaz and Beastie Boys, like Paul's Boutique, which I think is still our influences. But like, so we started doing that, and we'd like rented a studio and did drums. Just like, he had a bunch of samples set up for me, just like samples of 70s songs or whatever, jazz, all kinds of stuff. And I just played to that, just like 5 minutes of like drumming. And then we take that back and like sample that and do that. And then we have Peter Chapman, who plays, he's multi-instrumentalist guy, and he replaces all the samples, or we like go in and I'm like, you know what, let's do something like, do some guitar like Soons. Him and I, like, we have a big, vast array of influences, indie rock or metal, whatever. It's just like, just throw it all at the board for Tongue Helmet. I really just want that band to me is like, it's just a playground.
Right.
That you can just like put all these different types of music together and make this kind of hip hop. I mean, nowadays to me, it's kind of more like alternative rock compared to what hip hop is out right now, but it's very 90s influenced hip hop stuff. What's
the setup like live for Tongue Helmet?
We have live drums, and I play to like a click, and then we have like the track. There's like part of a backing track. Whatever Peter can't play, he'll play guitar, or like he has his MPC and he'll trigger certain samples that he's done. There is 0 samples on Tongue Helmet record. It's like all completely, other than like some of the scratching.
Sure.
It's all, and even some of that we replace, like we'll scratch our own
Cool.
voices and stuff like that. We try to do like sample free completely
That's amazing.
when it just sounds like samples.
Awesome.
So we'll have that. We have turntables, and he triggers also like the back track, and then Peter plays like guitar or MPC, and then rapping. It's all like pretty. I think it's fun because like a lot of people haven't seen turntables live like that.
Like on
Like
stage.
a lot of this stuff is like new to people, even though it's like an old art form from it's old 80s, 90s type rap stuff. Like people aren't doing it really right now. So a lot of people, young people, are coming out and be like, "Whoa, what is going on?" It's like, it's just like the old art of turntablism. It's just like kind of died.
Because everything's like samples now, right?
Well, they just don't really like rap doesn't really have scratching anymore.
No, it doesn't, does it?
There's no scratching in rap. So it's just kind of like the last time you heard scratching would have been like a Limp Bizkit song probably or something.
That's a while ago.
I don't know.
That's cool, man. I love the concept of live drums with hip hop.
Yeah, it's really
You don't see that a lot, really.
No. I mean, you see, like I saw Kendrick Lamar. He blew my mind. He had like a full band. It was insane.
Nice.
But yeah, it's different. It's definitely not. Because to be honest, I'm a big hip hop fan, but live hip hop's usually quite boring. It's not very exciting. But I think Tongue Helmet puts this like kind of thing together that's pretty exciting.
That's cool. So how much time do you get for Tongue Helmet? You just have to fit it in?
Fit it in. It's like,
yeah.
It's hard to book shows. We've got some offers. We're offered to play in London in November. We were like, I can't promise we can do that because July Talk will probably be on tour.
Right. Yeah, that's this pain in the ass other band of yours gets in the way.
Exactly. I'm spoiled.
So, so tell the audience actually what a Tongue Helmet is.
So basically, what happened was I was telling Tim about a woodpecker. What it does, it wraps its tongue around its brain as like insulation for when it's banging on trees, like either looking for food or like making nests. So it's basically an absorption of the contact. And Tim was just like, "Oh, it's like a tongue helmet." And I was like, that's a cool name for a band. And it kind of like, we just started calling it Tongue Helmet, but he was really like, I don't know, man. Like, that sounds like a blowjob or something. I was like, it's fine. It's not. Like, who cares? It's Tongue Helmet. But it is a bit like people don't know what it is. And that's why, like, the first song on each side of the album are intros explaining what Tongue Helmet means.
Really?
Yeah. They're like hip hop scratch intros that are just like talking about woodpeckers and their tongue. It's funny, but
you're very socially responsible. I appreciate that about Tongue Helmet. But this all provides a nice segue into Drummers Who Love Birds.
Yeah.
Because people may not realize you are a bird photographer.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, this year's been really slow for my bird photography, and I feel like I'm missing something in my life a little bit.
Really?
But also, music's just been like completely the priority, and I got married this year. But
yes, you did. Congratulations.
That also took up a lot of time, but planning. But the bird photography thing is always when we're touring a lot. I just love to go out and walk around and like take pictures. And birding I just got fascinated with birds. And once you do realize what is going on around you in nature, because even in the city, actually in the city especially, you can just find like all kinds of crazy birds. Like, who knows, you might see a peregrine falcon dive bombing the pigeons outside the window right now. Like, I've seen that. I've been reading, and they're just everywhere. But it's just fascinating. So, I don't know. I think it's just this thing where we get caught up in technology and we get caught up in like our everyday lives, and we don't actually we're not aware of what's going on around us, this natural thing called nature,
right?
Which can just put you back into like some sort of reality and just realize you're not the center of attention. You're not the biggest thing going on. You're just a piece of this massive planet. I don't know. It's like really, it just always makes me feel whenever like the music stuff you get caught up in all the drama or the chaos, you can just like go to a park or a forest and just like breathe and realize that stuff is, not just about you and your band or something.
It's almost a meditative thing. It feels
exactly.
like.
Yeah.
What's the coolest thing that's happened when you've been out there birding?
I love when you get to like interact, even if it is like some sort of birds are attacking you or something. Like,
have you been attacked by birds?
Red-winged blackbirds are very aggressive, and I'll be like taking pictures of a cardinal, and then a red-winged blackbird will just like flap in my ear. And it's like,
really?
That terrifies people, and there's many stories about people running down on the waterfront in Toronto and them getting attacked, and it's like a CBC thing. There's like warnings about it, but I actually love that stuff. And like, probably one of the coolest things was I was at my wife's brother's wedding. We were in Edmonton, and it was my wife's best friend, and we were staying at her place, and she was like in this new house on this construction zone area, but there was bald eagles.
Oh wow!
Their nest was just like right near the house, so I spent most of my spare time just hanging out at this eagle's nest, and they had a juvenile bald eagle, which when bald eagles are young, they're just completely brown. They kind of look like golden eagles. They don't have the white yet, and so this thing, it was just like massive. It was probably the size of like a child.
Wow.
Like a 2-year-old. Like, they're just like massive things.
They're big
so I
birds.
just hung out with it the whole time. And because it's so young, it didn't really care that I was getting pretty close to it. Or I'd spent hours just like hanging out, looking at this thing, taking pictures. It's pretty. Birds of prey are like, you can just see the power.
Oh yeah, they're fierce.
Feel the power of their talons are massive. It's crazy.
I've seen eagles up close at like the zoo, and I always feel bad for zoo birds, and zoo animals, but yeah, you just you look in those eyes and you're like, man, that is a fierce creature. You know?
Yeah, it's really cool. And when I've flown like hawks off my arm.
Oh, have you?
It's really cool. They're very light. Because they have to be able to fly. So they're like super light, but you can feel like just like the power of they have a lot of strength.
You watch like an eagle bomb into the lake and come out with like a 15-pound fish and just fly away, right?
Yeah.
Or, somebody's dog.
Yeah.
There was my dental hygienist told me about, she lives on the edge of town, and there's like eagles that lived out there. Somebody flew a drone up to look in the nest, and it was full of like cat collars, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're strong.
Well, we played in Whitehorse, and I was talking to my grandma on the phone, and this golden eagle flew by, and I didn't have my camera. I was just like, oh, that's so crazy. Like, they're even bigger than bald eagles. They're massive. And so we went to sound check, and the girl who was driving us around, I was like, where are all the golden eagles? Like, where do I find, what's the best place to go take pictures? She's like, oh, like down the road. And she was telling a story about how they had a man-made eagle's nest that had a camera on it 24/7. You go online and like watch the eagle's nest. But they had to take it down because the eagles just kept bringing up cats and dogs. So people are just like, there's my dog. Being eaten by a family of eagles.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. They'll take your dogs.
They will, I know. They're these are serious predators.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, oh man. So I find the photography an interesting kind of dichotomy.
Yeah.
Drumming is whoosh, and birding is the opposite spectrum. I like that.
Yeah, and I think I was doing more press for the birding thing, because people are just like I did a Vice thing. Because it's just like people are kind of fascinated by like the opposite dynamic, which is funny. But it does in the end when you think about it. You're like, oh, it makes sense. It kind of makes sense.
From a certain perspective, I think a touring musician, it's helpful to have something, well, two things. Something that's yours, especially if you're like not the front person or the primary songwriter. Something that's yours is important, but also something that unwinds, you know? I've never done 4 months, 5 months, 6 months on the road. I've done 4, 5, 6 weeks a few times, and that's enough. It's like having something that separates you from all that is healthy.
Yeah, totally.
I think.
Some sort of hobby.
Yeah.
People have all different types of things that do that for them. Sometimes it's drawing or painting or reading or like, video games. I don't know. It's like whatever it is, but for some reason, bird photography happened to really just like, I was just like, oh, I love this. I was very embarrassed by it at first.
Really?
Well, it was such a weird, because it's like now it actually, since I started doing it to now, I think it's become like a lot cooler. Maybe
you've opened the door.
I don't know if I opened the door. I don't know what happened, but it was like a lot more young people are just like into birds. And I get a lot of people sending me, just like other musicians and whoever, like people sending me, they'll
photos.
See birds and send me pictures, or like they get really excited.
That's so weird.
But
I
at first I was
get
like,
it.
this is just for like 60-year-old men.
Right.
Binoculars.
It's like you've opened the door for all the closet hip young bird people.
Yeah.
That's great. Good for you. When I'm on the road, it's writing. So when I go to Europe with Sarah, I do a tour blog every day.
That's awesome.
Which actually adds sometimes more stress, but trying to get that done. But for me, that's how I kind of pull back from everything and just separate myself. And Sarah will do like yoga and whatever. But it's important. It's important to have something. Like I'm thinking of Neil Peart and his motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
Right? How he would have the motorcycle in a trailer, and 200 miles out of town, he'd get off the bus and ride the rest of the way, you know?
It's wild. He's like, he like put his body through punishment, but that's just up to do.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Did you watch that last Rush? It's like the last Rush tour doc, and it's basically
I watched it.
He could barely walk.
How he would be like as soon as the show was over, off the kit and running through the halls of the arena to get on the bus away from everybody. It's like, this dude just does not want people around, you know?
Very awkward. Never crossed the line. I found that so crazy. He never went to the front of the stage. He was like, the drums are behind.
Yeah.
If I don't cross the drums. It's like, that's such a weird
except one night, the very last night.
Last show. Yeah.
That's cool. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I would like to talk to Neil Peart, but I feel like I'll never be able to find him.
He doesn't want to talk to us.
No, he does not. He's not interested in talking to me at all. But it's okay. But I got to see him from 3 rows away too on the Snakes and Arrows tour, and as much as you can see him behind all that stuff,
he's just kind of like next level of craziness.
Well, he's a genius. Like there's certain people who are just geniuses at things, and you'll never get it. Yeah. I won't, anyways. Yeah, he's something else. So what's coming up for July Talk then, man? What's going to happen?
We have an album. We're waiting to kind of, I mean, it's still got to be mixed and mastered at this point, but it's pretty close. We're just kind of like finishing up. We're doing 3 more songs that we're finishing up this week. I'm actually going to Italy, so I won't be there. But my drum parts are done.
Is that a honeymoon thing?
Yeah, I got a honeymoon coming up.
Good for you.
We go on tour with Catfish and the Bottlemen in the States.
Nice.
In September, October. So that's going to be great. They're our old friends.
Nice. Great.
They've been really great to us. It's wild. I got to meet The Edge and Adam Clayton.
Did you really?
The Catfish and the Bottlemen show in Dublin.
What?
And we got to hang out. Like The Edge basically like took us out. There was like 8 of us. We just like drank at his hotel that he owned. Yeah, super nice dude. Very nice guy. You can tell he's been famous since he's like 18. Because I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but like as far as like cell phones or like religion, he's like, okay. I don't know what you're talking about, but everyone's told you you're like he's probably surrounded by people that are like, yes, that's true. Okay.
He's been in a bubble really for nice 40 years, right?
Yeah.
I love this stuff. Like, a few episodes back was Dave Benedict he's the bass player for Default. Cool. You know that band?
Yeah.
Dave and I went to high school together. He's an old buddy of mine.
Really?
And he turned into a rock star, which is cool.
Yeah.
And we just talked a little bit about just the folks he met along the way when Default was really happening. You know, Mick Jagger. Just hung out with Mick, you know, spent all this time with Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
And I find this stuff amazing because it happens, man. You just like the levels just get bigger the further up you go, you know?
Yeah. And these people are just like normal. I mean, they're super rich, famous, but they're normal. And they just like, I think they want to stay relevant. That's the only thing that I can think why you would come to like see new bands is because they were like studying it. So like Catfish and the Bottlemen was like the hottest new band going in England at the time.
Okay.
And so, you know, The Edge was coming. Apparently he was like, I didn't talk to him right after the show. So I guess he went backstage into their dressing room and he was like, oh, the tempos were all these tempos. Like, they're so fast. The song's so fast. So you're just like studying this band, probably getting ideas for like the new U2 record or something.
Wow.
And just trying to stay connected. I think that's what they're doing.
That's cool. That's how you last for 30
they're like
years.
You and I. They don't think they're the greatest musicians of all time. They are like, they know they're influenced by probably one of the coolest things that ever happened to me was to July Talk was at the Junos. We had won Alternative Record of the Year. This is like the last Junos we won at.
Yep.
And it was the year that Gord Downey had passed away.
Oh yeah.
And so we didn't get to see this, but I saw a video, but like after we won, our award was the second last award. The last award was Group of the Year, and Tragically Hip won. So Robbie Baker went up to accept the award, and he said apparently we're all influenced by bands early on when we're new bands. We're influenced by these other bands, and this is why we make music. And he was like, as a band that's, you know, 20 years into their career, we're still influenced by bands, and like for that we'd like to thank like July Talk. And it was fucking like, the fuck, it's so crazy. You're just like, really? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. That's better than winning an award. That's better than a Juno. Crazy.
That's so cool, man. That's so freaking cool.
I know that now. I mean, we were recording at Bathhouse, this new record that's not out, and he was hanging out. Super great people.
Amazing.
Awesome, dude.
That's so great, man. I love it.
That's probably the coolest thing that I
love it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
Pretty good one.
That's great, man. All right. So you're going to go, I presume, when the album drops, you'll be touring quite a bit?
Yeah, I imagine nonstop for a few months, for sure. Yeah.
How does that work with the new wife, or is she accustomed to this stuff?
She's fine.
Yeah.
She knows. It's been the whole time. We started long distance, which I think helped our relationship.
Sure.
She never got a cuss. Actually, she probably is like sick of having me around
already.
She's like, when are you going on tour? It's the longest we've ever hung out. It was annoying.
That's hilarious. I one of my earliest episodes was with Jason Tate. Do you know Jason Tate?
Of course.
Who's one of my favorites. And he was talking about being out with Bahamas for like 6 months.
Right.
And he's got a wife and 2 kids at home.
Yeah.
And he had to be careful because he would call up his wife, who's at home doing everything. Yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, they were like touring with Jack Johnson. So they're playing big rooms. Everything was happening. He's like, oh, yeah, they're bringing in fresh lobster tonight, blah, 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 blah. And his wife's just like, you're such a dick. Like, don't tell me this. You know what I mean? I'm at home with the kids. You're eating lobster.
Dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fine line.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. I mean, I'll probably end up we're planning on having kids in the next couple years, I think.
Oh, really?
I think things change. Josh, our bass player, just had a baby, Claire, who's like the cutest kid around. You immediately become like family. I feel like I'm like an uncle.
Right.
Because we're so close. Like our band is so close. It's just like, it's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure you just end up like, you want to be home faster. Like you're just like, I want to see.
Yeah.
It's probably what happens, but.
People make it work.
Lots of people have kids.
Oh yeah, loads of them. I've seen lots of kids around. Like easy a dozen. Like they're everywhere.
People make it work.
So you'll make it work too. All right, dude. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
Thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck with all this stuff.
It's a good way to start my day.
Good. I'm glad. Your beautiful day in Toronto.
Yeah.
All right. I will catch up with you when you come back to London sometime.
All right. Well, it's good to see you.
And you.
Yeah.
Via Skype.
Let me know if you're in Toronto. Let me know if you're playing or like what's happening.
Absolutely. We'll do that for sure. Because I do get down there every now and again. So we'll see. But good luck with all the stuff, man.
You too. Thank you.
And I'll talk to you again.
All right. Talk soon. Right.
Cheers.
See you.
Thank you once again, gentle listener, for taking in today's show. Thank you as well to Danny Miles for being such an inspiring guest. If you want to know more about Danny and the rest of my guests, go to www.john-huff.com. That's JOHN-HUFF.com. You can also find the show on Facebook at The John Huff Podcast. If you're an Instagram person, you can find me at JW_Huff for content that may or may not appear on the Facebook page. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're an Apple Podcasts person, please do me a big favor and leave a rating and review of the show, preferably a positive one. That's all the time we have for today, but I'll be back very soon. Until then, keep your wits about you and remember, good things happen when you put yourself out there. Bye for now. I don't watch a lot of television, but I started watching Glow on Netflix yesterday. I like it.